Coming at you with hard-hitting analysis of every fight on every UFC card. This is your source for everything you need to know for your daily fantasy MMA lineup. This is Daily Fantasy Knockout. Now here's your host, Drew Dean.
All right, loving the new intro. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Daily Fantasy Knockout. As always, I'm joined with my host, Josh Stonewall Stillman. Josh? What's good, homie?
Not much, man. Recording this late night, so throwing on the good-looking headphones. Let me know if my mic gets scratchy, but I'm ready to go. Glad we're getting this out. Wednesday, hopefully more people can hear it than the one I put out Friday night last time around. So, yeah, I'm ready to do this.
All right, guys, you know the drill. Josh and I go through each fight, and we discuss who we think is going to win. Before we talk about it, we do not look at DraftKings prices. We do not look at Las Vegas odds. We make our picks, talk about why, and then give you our advice on which format we think is best for each fighter, and then we go into the Las Vegas odds, and we go from there. So, yeah, let's dive right in.
Glad to have you back on this one, dude.
Thanks, man. It's been a wild summer for me. Been a little busy. Had some stuff to take care of, but I'm back on board. We're ready to do this thing. So let's go, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Josh is going to lead off with the first fight. Rustam Khabilov versus Leandro Silva.
Okay. Do they change up the bout order? Because that's not the first one that we have listed. But
I'm just looking at UFC.com, and this is the first fight. That's normally how I do it.
Okay. That works. That's crazy because these dudes should probably be on the main card. At least Khabilov, he's really good. He's only lost to Adriano Martins and Benson Henderson, and he's beaten dudes like Norman Park. I forget who he beat in this last fight. Someone else who was good. Anyway, he's a really, really good wrestler. Oh, Chris Wade, your boy. Chris Wade, who we just beat. He also has wins over Jorge Masvidal and Yancy Medeiros. So he's definitely solid. I think if he's not top 15, he's borderline for sure. And I like him in this fight against Leandro Buscape Silva. So Silva's mainly a Muay Thai guy, but he also has a BJJ black belt. But I think that black belt kind of gets in his way sometimes. He's not super accurate, or I should say active with his submissions, but he's like really content to play off his back. And so that gets him into trouble because if he gets taken down, he spends lots of time on his back. He doesn't get up right away, and that's going to be a big problem against Khabilov, who is a fantastic wrestler. People might remember his UFC debut against Vince Bichelle, where he suplexed him all over the cage and eventually knocked him out that way. Khabilov was able to get 6 takedowns on Benson Henderson before eventually succumbing to a 4th-round rear naked choke. So, yeah, so the dude can definitely wrestle. So I like him to take that avenue. Buscape's got a pretty good stand-up. He mixes in his strikes and combination pretty well. But Khabilov has fought better people and beaten better people. So I like him to get the victory here. And I think we lost Drew. So I'm going to keep on going, and hopefully he comes back. There you are. Hey, lost you for a second. You there?
Sorry about that. I accidentally X'd out for some reason.
All right, no problem. Yeah, so anyway, I like Khabilov. What are we looking at for DraftKings and odds for these guys?
All right, we'll start with the odds. Khabilov is a -400 favorite, and Silva is +300. Over-under set at 2.5 rounds, and it's favored to go the distance at -280. Looking at DraftKings, Khabilov comes in at 10,200, and Silva comes in at 9,200.
Okay. Yeah, so I ultimately was looking back at my pick to see exactly how I liked Khabilov to win. I picked him to win by decision. I think if Buscape didn't have the BJJ black belt, I'd probably pick Khabilov to win by submission or something. But yeah, so I think the decision sounds good here. The price doesn't sound too bad at 10-2 for a, what did you say, -400 favorite?
Correct.
Wow. Yeah. So so you're getting Khabilov at a discount, I think, and like I said, I think he should roll to a victory here. So I think he's a awesome cash game play for sure. I don't know that he necessarily has a ton of upside, but at 10-2, you don't necessarily need like a first or second round finish. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's priced right where we like him personally for cash games at 10-2. Even if he goes a dominant decision victory, you're going to get paid off at 65, maybe 75 points for probably like 55, 65 points if you're lucky. And I'm cool with that, paying 10-2 for a cash game. Cool with it now. We'll see what the other fighters come up with later as we go through the card.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next fight. It's a middleweight bout, Scott Askham versus Jack Hermansson. Jack Hermansson's making his UFC debut, and I'm going to go out on a limb and take Jack Hermansson in this fight. It is his UFC debut. He's a big, tall, lanky middleweight. I saw some YouTube video of this guy. He's always busy. He looks like an elite prospect. He switches his stance a lot. He has a really fast set of hands, and he changes angles a lot. He likes to keep the fight on his feet, obviously. He uses this wicked lead left jab that keeps his opponents at bay, kind of flushers them on the feet. In his ground game, there's limited footage, but what I've seen, he's super, super comfortable off of his back. Throws up submission attempts everywhere, any chance he can get. He seemed to be really talented on the ground, and at the same time, he had excellent takedown defense. Excuse me. Looking at Askham, similar fighter. He's tall and lanky. In most of his fights, he's always had the range and reach advantage. I'm interested to see how he deals with that when he doesn't have that advantage. He throws, good 1-2 combos, powerful leg kicks. The standard for a tall, lanky striker. He does get frustrated early if he doesn't find his range. On the ground, he is a black belt. Same with Hermansson. He isn't afraid to throw submissions off of his back. Up against the cage, he's comfortable. He uses that range I was talking about to control his opponents with good wrist control the elbows, control position. But this is a close fight for me to call. Normally, if you guys listen to the show, you normally know that I side with UFC veterans, but I like the limited footage I saw on Hermansson. I think this guy has what it takes to win this fight. If he was more of an underdog just for being, new to the UFC, I'd be all over him. I think both these guys are going to stand in front of each other and bang it out. If Hermansson gets over the jitters, which I think he will, he seems to be a very, very confident fighter. I think he has some more polished movement and strikes on the feet. So I'm going to go with Hermansson via decision in this fight.
All right. Let's take a look at the odds. So Askham is the -120 favorite, the UFC veteran, while Hermansson comes in as a +100 underdog. So pretty close line there. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds, and the over's at -165. And looking at DraftKings, Hermansson is at 9,800 and Askham is at 9,600. So we like this more for cash or GPPs?
I'm not too sure, really. On DraftKings, Askham, he is the slight favorite, but he's priced as the underdog in this fight, so I think a lot of people are going to flock to him. But I think the smart play here is playing Hermansson. I'm not too sure, cash game or GPP. I'm not sure I see a finish in this fight. Price relief, he could be good in GPPs. Price relief could be in cash game. I think he could be a good low price guy to throw into your cash games or your GPPs.
Okay.
I'm probably going to side with my cash games, though.
Okay. Gotcha. So I haven't seen tape on Hermansson. You make him sound like he's really good. I'm tempted to have some exposure to Askham in GBPs because of his finishing ability. He has, in his 4 UFC fights, he has lost 2 decisions, but then also has 2 first-round knockouts. And he's coming off like a super impressive highlight reel head kick knockout of Chris Dempsey. So we know that he's got finishing ability. There's they're middleweights, the big dudes. If they're both good strikers, then I think, could see a finisher despite the line. I think maybe the line is just more of a function of how even they seem in skill, but with how good of strikers are, it just takes one shot, So do you think the over-under, are you you said that you think the decision seems more likely, so that makes you feel okay about throwing Hermanson in cash?
Yeah, honestly, you can make an argument for each of these guys. I think Hermanson looks like the more imposing fighter, the more competent fighter. And I just have this gut feeling about him. Like I said, like Vegas says, it's basically a coin flip. But I'm going to go with Hermanson in this fight.
Okay. So two reasonably priced dudes who both seem pretty good with some finishing upside, so you could really roll with them in any lineup. But we're going with Hermanson, sounds like, which is cool with me. Who's up next?
Georgios Dano versus Christian Colombo. I'm going to dive into this one. Two heavyweights. Dano's fought in the UFC one time. Christian Godzilla Colombo. This is his first fight in the UFC. It's going to be a quick analysis on this one, guys. Let me see this here. Okay, Dano is a German. He's fighting in his hometown. It's in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he's German. He's 6-1 in his MMA career. All 6 wins are by knockout. He's only had one UFC fight. There's limited film on this guy. But shocking, as expected. He has huge power in his hands. It's a typical heavyweight fighter. He doesn't throw many combos. He has this laboring right jab that he throws. There is power in his hands. He does a really good job of circling away from the power of his opponent. I noticed that in a few other videos that I watched of him. In terms of his first loss in the UFC, it went to the decision, which is unlikely for heavyweights, especially rookie heavyweights. And I chalk a lot of his issues up to UFC jitters, being nervous. He, came through the underground scene, running through people, beating the crap out of people in the first round, easy knockouts, not really, facing any talent. And then in his first UFC fight, he was taking the distance. His gas tank was bottomed out in the second. And I think that does a lot for his psyche. Doesn't really reflect him as a fighter, but that first UFC debut, I really think that could have been an issue because this guy's got huge power. In the clinch, he really thrives in the clinch. He's enormous. This guy is a brick shithouse. He uses his pure size, strength, really effectively up against the cage and wears down his opponents. Has good dirty boxing up against the fence, where he just pounds on his opponents. Like I said, I think the jitters and that adrenaline dump that comes along with being in the UFC for the first time, I think he's going to come in as a smarter fighter in this fight. That's why I'm going with him. Colombo, saw about one video of him getting tapped out by Victor Pesca. That was like 4 years ago in 2012. This guy's huge. He's 6'5", 265. He was a little scared and a little shy in his fight against Pesta. Since that fight, he's won 5 in a row. But in 2014, he went out with some injury. I forget what it is. It might have been his knee or his ankle or something like that. That put him on the sideline for about a year. He's had one win since against a guy who was 0-0. But in the past 3 years, that was his only fight. So it's an easy pick for me. I'm going to go Dano in this one. I'm all in. He's got one UFC fight under his belt. I'm always siding with the fighter most of the time after I just kind of said to myself. I most always side with the UFC veteran against rookies. So I'm going to go back to that theory on this one. I think Dano wins the fight in the first, early second round.
Do you know what Dano's nickname is?
Man Mountain.
Man Mountain. That is awesome. That is an awesome nickname.
I'm all in on the Man Mountain.
Man Mountain, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at your notes. It was a knee injury for Colombo. And, yeah, I mean, that kind of a layoff and then coming back and only fighting a dude making his pro debut in the last 3 years, that's not a good look when you're about to make your UFC debut. So, yeah, I got to agree with you here. So taking a look at the odds on these guys, it is a straight pick 'em. A little bit surprising there. They're both minus 110. The over-under is at 1.5 rounds. Not surprisingly, the over is at minus 145. Looking at DraftKings, Dano, okay, so this sounds like more in line with what you were thinking. Dano comes in at 10,400 and Colombo comes in at 9,000. So it sounds like this is probably a straight GBP play, and you're down with Dano at 10.4, but we should probably have some exposure to Colombo at only 9,000.
Yep,
sound right?
I agree. Somebody's way off here, whether it's DraftKings or Vegas. Vegas is normally not off, but MMA, anything can happen. Yeah, I'm all over Dano. GPP is the play for me. 10-4, I think you're going to get paid off. Maybe even in cash, dude. I'm that confident in him. I think he storms this fight. I think he wins. I'm not going to have a single exposure to Colombo. So,
you don't think? I mean, if you're just going by the odds, it's pick him and he's only 9K. So you're getting that's some pretty good value, and it is heavyweight. So you should probably have some exposure, right? I mean, we haven't seen. I think the not seeing tape on him is sort of a double-edged sword. We haven't seen a lot, so that makes it kind of hard to pick him. But at the same time, you haven't seen maybe a ton of his weaknesses at the same time. So you don't it's heavyweight. So
yeah,
I think you got to have some exposure.
Yeah, I'd agree. Okay, you win. Maybe I'll throw him in a couple for some salary relief, but it's going to be very limited.
Okay. Fair enough. Who we got next?
Next fight of the evening is, I don't even know how to say this, Taylor Lapoulis?
Yeah.
Versus Leandro Issa.
Okay. Gotta find my notes here. I usually go to the Wikipedia page and you go off of that for the bout order, but they sometimes change it up. There was a fight that got canceled this week, I think. Who was that? Martin Bushcamp and Alex Enland. That fight got canceled. So, okay. So Leandro Issa and Taylor Lapoulis. Okay, so this is a classic striker versus grappler. Lapoulis is a French guy who looks like primarily likes to kickbox. He doesn't really have much of a ground game. It looks like he does have some submission wins to his credit, but off of his back, he doesn't really do a whole lot. He doesn't look to stand up, or he doesn't seem able to do that. The thing that he keeps doing over and over again in the fights that I saw is he goes for a Kimura sweep, or just a straight up trying to go for the Kimura off of his back. And you've got to be really, really crafty to be able to set that up and pull that off. Usually people use it to sweep. And he did that once against Eric Perez, who's a pretty good grappler. And Lapoulis was almost able to take his back off of that. But other than that, he would try to use it to stall out, but he just wasn't able to get back to his feet, or wasn't using it to get back to his feet. Issa is a former jiu-jitsu world champion, so if this fight goes to the ground, and I think that it probably will, obviously he's going to have the advantage there. He's no Damian Maia, but he's heavy on top, doesn't give up position, and obviously can work submissions. And Issa's no slouch on the feet. I mean, obviously he's not as good as Lapoulis, who has a devastating offensive clinch and some really awkward movement on the feet, and likes to throw flashy techniques. Issa primarily throws power punches and leg kicks. He throws the power punches to try to close the distance. So let me see. Sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to see what my notes on Lapoulis' wrestling was. His defensive wrestling is not – his offensive wrestling looked straight up terrible. And his defensive wrestling isn't much better. I think he's decent at fending off clinch takedowns, but if someone can get in on his hips, he's going for a ride for the most part. And Issa's not a fantastic wrestler, but he also kind of has a hard time taking down superior athletes. But all it takes for him is one takedown, and he's going to be like Damian Maia, he's going to be riding out the rest of the round in top position. So I like Issa here to get a second round submission.
Interesting. Let's take a look at Vegas. Las Vegas has Leandro Issa as the underdog at plus 125. Lapoulis is the favorite at minus 155. Pretty close. Wow. The over-under is set at 1.5 rounds. The over is favored at minus 190. The under is at plus 155. DraftKings, similar. Lapoulis comes in at 10,000, and the underdog, Leandro Issa, comes in at 9,400.
Huh. That is interesting. Well, I'm glad that I think I was mostly chalk last week, so I'm not too upset about having an underdog pick. So obviously I like Issa here. What did you say, 9,000?
94.
94. So I think Lapoulis, he's got to be a GPP play. If one that you could sprinkle in. I don't see him getting a knockout here. I'm trying to see if he's got finishes on his record. So he's 2-1 in the UFC, and he's got one finish and one decision win, and then one decision loss. So it's kind of hard for me to see a knockout here for him. I think that anytime that he kind of gets, if he's throwing lots of kicks, Issa's going to be trying to tie him up, trying to catch kicks, turn them into takedowns. So it's kind of hard for me to see a finish there for Lapalus, but I mean, so I think he's definitely more of a GBP play that you sprinkle in a little bit of exposure to, maybe, but definitely not a cash play because he could end up fighting off his back for long periods. I like Issa. Do I like him enough to play him in cash? Maybe. For a guy that I like to win at 9,400, that's not too bad. And I think he's got the upside for a finish because I'm just not impressed with Lapalus's ground game. But it could also end up being like a pretty boring decision. So we'll kind of see how the rest of the card plays out. I could be interested in in Issa in cash, and maybe a little bit in GPPs as well. What's next?
My bad, I got distracted there. We're going to go to the women's division, Ashley Evans-Smith versus Veronica Macedo.
All right. So we saw AES, Ashley Evans-Smith, in Pittsburgh for that was the inaugural episode of Daily Fantasy Knockout. And she was able to squeak by Marion Renaud by decision, somewhat controversially, but she was able to kind of pull out the decision nonetheless.
And Josh was also able to sneak past security and get a picture with Ashley Evans-Smith, and it made his day.
No sneaking past security necessarily, but yeah, she was up in the stands, and so yeah, I'm just a pathetic fanboy for all UFC fighters.
A mark is the term.
Yes, sorry. Yep. Let me get my pro wrestling lingo in check there. Yep. Giant mark. We also talked to Anthony Smith for a while, and we're geeking out over that too. So we're really cool. Anyway. So I got to try to be non-biased here, and I actually am going to be picking against Ashley Evans-Smith. Hopefully, she doesn't beat me up. Not that she'll ever hear this, probably, but in any case, I like Macedo. I'm going to go with that. Veronica Macedo. She's Venezuelan, so I'm going to say that's how you pronounce it. I like Macedo here. She's all about the quote unquote spinning shit. She throws mad spinning attacks. She doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so it's kind of hard to find like accurate, reliable info on like exactly a fighter's credentials sometimes, like what their belt level is and everything. But it looks like she's got a Taekwondo background, and her BJJ, her jiu-jitsu also looks pretty solid. So the one thing that kind of gives me pause here from Macedo is that she's going to be a size disadvantage against Smith, and Smith is also a really good wrestler. Smith used to fight at featherweight 145, and I think Macedo could or has fought at least flyweight 125. They're fighting at bantamweight here, 135. So Smith, Evan Smith, with her wrestling and her size advantage, could kind of stifle Macedo and take a decision. I don't see her getting a submission here because Macedo's ground and pound, jiu-jitsu really looks slick. As soon as she gets taken down, she's throwing up submissions, looking for sweeps. And her striking looks very, very dangerous. She'll throw any kind of she's a kicker mostly, and I don't know if that's necessarily just what she's best at, or if that's also kind of a function of the size disadvantage that she's going to be at. She'll be at a 4-inch height disadvantage against Smith, but that's not going to stop her from throwing. I think that she kind of throws kicks because she's able to reach her opponents a little bit better, given her size disadvantage a lot of the time. So I think she'll be throwing a lot of kicks here. She goes to the body with spinning back kicks, throws up head kicks, side kicks. There's a nasty head kick victory for her in one of her amateur fights that I saw. since then, also pretty crazy note, she just turned pro this year, Macedo, and she's already 5-0, which is pretty insane, making her UFC debut already. She had 2 amateur fights in 2014, so I don't know if she was working on jiu-jitsu or what in the interim, but hasn't been pro for very long. But I like her to win here because I think she's just kind of got more avenues to victory. I think Evan Smith is just going to have to try to take her down and try to hold her down and avoid submissions and kind of work mild ground and pound to not get stood up. Try to not get swept. So while I think Macedo could win on the feet or with a submission, and so I'm going to pick her to win by 3rd round submission over Evan Smith.
Interesting. What do you think the odds are?
Well, Macedo's coming in on late notice for Jermaine Durand, who's also a completely different stylistic matchup. Durand is a Muay Thai fighter, primarily without – she's big without much of a ground game. So it's pretty much like the complete opposite of Macedo. I honestly have no idea. What are they?
Macedo comes in at plus 190. Ashley Evans Smith is the favorite at minus 240. Over under 2.5 rounds, it's favored to go over at minus 190.
Okay, so it looks like Vegas is thinking that Evan Smith is going to grind her way to a decision, which is definitely a possibility here. But like I said, she's been preparing for a completely different opponent. She was probably going to want to wrestle Durand to me anyway. But so that's certainly possible. If she can avoid getting submitted or getting her face kicked in, then she'll probably win the decision. If it goes to the decision, she's probably going to win it. Macedo will probably need a finish here, so that gives you a little bit of pause there. You don't really – it's kind of hard to go all in on a fighter who isn't likely to win a decision if it goes there. So what are their prices on DraftKings? Let's look at that.
Ashley Evans Smith, the favorite, comes in at 9,900, and Macedo comes in at 9,500.
Okay, so again, you're getting a person who I like to win for cheap money, but Issa is cheaper, and I like his chances probably better against Lapalus.
What's Macedo's kicking game like?
I mean, seriously, just like I haven't seen. I was trying to find video of her trying to face a wrestler. I don't know how much she'll change it up facing a wrestler like Evan Smith, but seriously, she just throws. She'll throw like a spinning back kick, and if it misses, she'll just like keep tornadoing into just mad kicks constantly. She just kicks constantly. Head kicks. She doesn't low kick very much, but body kicks, front kicks, side kicks, spinning tornado kicks. Like she's just kicking like mad.
That's a shame she doesn't throw many leg kicks, because I was watching some footage on Evan Smith, and she was fighting Renault in her last fight in Pittsburgh. And Renault beat up that front leg. She should have done it a little more. But you say Macedo's a big kicker, but maybe she will. Maybe she will throw in leg kicks to beat Ashley Evans Smith and really beat up that lead leg.
Yeah. If she's done her homework, maybe she will. I don't know.
She should.
So, yeah. All right.
Anyway.
So, I guess Macedo's obviously got to be a GBP play. Yeah, her floor is probably way too low for her to be a cash play. She could end up fighting off of her back for long periods, not really scoring much. Smith is a pretty heavy favorite and is not priced like one at only 9.9. But I don't see a ton of upside for her. So I think Evan Smith would probably be more of the potentially cash play. Even though, I mean, like, I probably won't have a lot of exposure to Evan Smith, but I think she probably makes more of a she's a value. So if you like her, then I would roll with her in cash. But I don't really see a finish there for Evan Smith, while a finish is Macedo's route to victory. So GBP for the Venezuelan and cash for the American.
All right, let's jump up to our next fight. Peter Sabota versus Nicholas Dalby. Oh, man, I just lost my spot. I like Dalby in this fight a lot. Sorry, guys, I just lost my spot. There we go. I like him a lot in this fight. He's coming off a decision loss to Zach Cummings. He's a well-rounded fighter, former karate student. He had a war with Darren Till. I think it was fight of the night. He was outclassed on the feet, in my opinion. He really struggled with the range of Till. He couldn't close the distance. But when he got in close and dirty boxed and got the fight up against the cage, he really succeeded. He loves the takedown. He averages about 3 takedowns per fight. He has 3 wins by submission. Up against the cage, he's grinding. He's suffocating. Huge knees in the clinch. Really breaks down his opponent and drops down for a double. And wants to get this fight to the ground because that's where he exceeds. His gas tank is never, ever in question. When he was getting popped by Till, he came back with a dominant third round and actually earned himself a majority draw in that fight and the fight of the night. It was a hell of a fight. This is the typical striker versus wrestler. Sabota just got his face pushed in by Kyle Noak in 2 minutes. He has a submission and a decision win in the UFC previously. He was confident on his feet against Noak, but Noak put a wicked front kick right to his gut. He probably broke a rib or something. Took him to the ground and just stormed him. He leads with a stiff jab. He throws power behind all of his strikes. He has really strong leg kicks, body kicks, changes angles really well, and throws a bunch of fakes. He's just, your standard, what you get out of a solid striker on the feet. In any case, I'm going to go with Darby in this fight because I like the wrestler against the striker. When he fought Till was a Muay Thai specialist, and he weathered the storm against him. And I do not see Sabota on the same level as Till whatsoever in the striking department. I think Darby gets this fight up against the cage, takes it to the ground, and he grinds out a decision victory.
All the way by decision. Okay, gotcha. So checking out the odds here, Dalby is the favorite at -130, and Peter Sabata comes back as the +110 underdog. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at -255. Wow. So decision seems like what Vegas is thinking for sure. Wow, the prices are pretty crazy here. Dalby comes in at 11,000, and Sabata is at 8,400. Does that make you rethink how you want to play these guys?
I'm going to fade Dalby in both formats, in my opinion. 11 grand for a decision. No thanks.
Yeah. So even though you're picking him, not worth that.
Correct. And I'm probably maybe I'll throw in Sabata just because Dalby did struggle with the striking, and Sabata can take it the distance and not get taken down. He's got a shot, so he would be a GPP play for me only.
Actually, that's interesting. I kind of like big underdogs in fights that are supposed to go the distance because they're super cheap and they should be around for most of the fight. The only exception I think to that is if the big dog is going to be fighting off their back the whole time. They're going to be taken down and controlled the entire fight. So do you think Dalby's able to control him? Because if not, I think Sabata could be a really cheap cash play, even if it doesn't get you the win, if he's striking for 3 rounds.
If he gets him to the ground, I think he dominates him and controls him the whole fight. The question is, does he weather the storm and get through that range and get him up against the fence? And I could see him doing that. But if Sabata, game plans well and keeps it on the feet, I see him as a good play in cash games. I like your theory.
I don't know if I'm not looking at your notes right now, but Sabata is also a BJJ black belt, so he's no slouch on the mat. I don't know what his wrestling looks like, but
so hearing that even makes me like Sabata even more as a cash game play. You're looking for guys that are going to go the distance or finish the fight, or if they're an underdog, the least you ask out of them is to go the distance. If they lose the fight, you want them to rack up as many points as they can. I think he's an ideal cash game play. He's cheap. It's probably going to go the distance where he's going to rack up points. jiu-jitsu on the mat. You know, he could always submit him. I think it's just tailor-made for a cash game play.
Okay.
I do like Dalby to win the fight, but in terms of cash games and constructing lineups, Sabata isn't a bad play.
Okay.
Thoughts? Agree, disagree?
Yeah. So I think you said originally that you like Sabata as a GPP play. Are you rethinking that?
Yeah, probably, because I don't see him finishing the fight.
Okay.
Cash game only.
Cool. Sounds good. What's up next?
What's happening? Justin Ayari versus Jim Wallhead. Cool names.
Yeah. Judo Jim Wallhead. Yeah. Sorry. 1 second. Trying to get this.
Peter, what's happening?
Yes. Classic. All right. So in this fight, Judo Jim Wallhead, I like him in this fight. What is his opponent's name again? I am blanking. Gotta get to my notes. Sorry. Super professional here. Okay, Justin Ayari. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I like Wallhead here. I think that he's just a little bit more technical, a little bit more solid, a little bit more just a little bit more well-rounded just about everywhere. Ayari is a 24-year-old prospect. He was actually supposed to fight Emil Weber-Meek, who I don't know if you know, but Meek just knocked out Husamar Palhares, the leg lock dude, the dirty leg lock dude. He just knocked him out in Venetor over in Italy. And so Meek was supposed to be making his UFC debut, but had like some problems with USADA. He didn't get suspended or anything. But anyway, so Wallhead's coming in on kind of short notice. But I think that he's actually the superior fighter, despite being the short notice guy. He's a veteran. He's been around for a long time. Used to fight in Bellator. So the deal with Ayari is that he's a really good athlete, but not much of a striker. He's wild, and he wants to use strikes to close the distance. He throws like big power punches and like body kicks, but he's trying to get the fight to the clinch where he can try to take it to the mat. And that's going to be a problem against a dude whose nickname is Judo. If you're trying to get takedowns on a guy with a judo background like that, that's going to be an issue. And I don't think that Ayari has the wrestling to really take down and control Wallhead for extended periods. I think he's got the better boxing. Wallhead doesn't throw in combination a whole lot, but he's got a really good overhand right and solid boxing. He throws 1 and 2 strikes at a time, typically. Good jab, and he's more positionally, fundamentally sound on the ground than Ayari, who's super aggressive. He's aggressive everywhere, including on the mat, and that kind of sometimes leaves him giving up position as he tries to go for submissions. And I just don't think Wallhead is going to let him advance if he's even able to get top position. So I like Wallhead to kind of grind out a kind of a slow-paced decision. I don't think that if Wallhead can kind of keep it at distance, he might be able to knock out the wild Ayari. But I don't think Ayari kind of lets that happen because he's just looking to close the distance behind power punches so quickly that I think this kind of plays out mostly in the clinch and on the ground. And in those places, I like Wallhead to take kind of a pretty boring decision. You've got a preview here of my bathroom break fight of the night. What are we looking at in terms of odds and DraftKings?
Ayari comes in at -110, and Wallhead is -120. Coin flip there. The over-under is 2.5 rounds. The over is -125. The under is -105, so there's some finish potential here. Ayari comes in at 10,100, and Wallhead comes in at 9,300.
Okay. Well, yeah. Again, we got a good dude that I like pretty cheap, even by the odds. Wallhead is a value play there, so I'd consider him in really either format. cash or GBPs. I think IRA is definitely more of a flyer. He's athletic. He's younger. He's dynamic. But so he's a dude who capable of the finish, but I probably won't have a ton of exposure to him. He's definitely going to be hit or miss. He's either going to, I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to see a big path to victory here for IRA, actually. Like I said, he's dynamic and athletic, but Wallhead is just a bad style matchup for him, I think. So I like Wallhead in both formats. IRA, if you want to throw in a GBP, cool, but I probably won't have too much exposure there.
All right, enough with that. Let's move on to the main card, UFC Fight Pass. Nick Sergeant Hine versus the Korean Cowboy Tai Hyun Bang.
It's a great nickname.
What's that?
It's a great nickname.
Yeah, it's pretty legit. He does wear a cowboy hat out to the ring, or out to the octagon. It's pretty cool. I'm going to go with Hine in this fight via decision. Another boring fight, in my opinion. Boring decision, I should say. Hine, he's a German boy. He's fighting in his hometown. He's never lost in Germany. He's a southpaw striker. He likes to push the pace, back fighters up against the fence. He favors his left hook. I kind of misspoke. He doesn't. I'm sorry, I misread. He's not the highest output fighter. He fought Kasuya, who was very active on the feet. He's known for his striking, and he seemed kind of hesitant to engage. But previous to Kasuya, he was very, very loose on his feet, throwing leather left and right. So I'm kind of considering that Kasuya fight as a one-off. You don't know if he was hurt or what was going on. He does a really good job of circling and not catching many strikes clean. Defensively, he's very good. He has good footwork to be defensive on the feet. One of the issues I did see is he tends to dip his head when he goes in for strikes, leaving him open for strong counters right down the middle line. And sometimes he's a slow starter. He doesn't establish himself. He doesn't really get going until late in the first, second, and third round. Up against the fence, he has good defensive ability in the clinch. Has really good wrist control and escapability. He's a longtime judoka. He likes to be in the clinch. He's comfortable there. And he also shows very solid takedown defense. Bang, you get just that. He likes to stand and bang. He's got a powerful right hand. 8 of his 18 wins are by knockout. He's got some big power on the feet. Sometimes, when I say sometimes, I mean most often, he's too concerned with brawling and throwing a bunch of leather that he gets really sloppy. He's repetitive. He steps in with his power right hand every single time. He fought Kuntz in his previous fight, and he was absolutely gassed after round 1. His hands were down at his side. He would exchange, and when he would break from exchanges, he kept his hands low, and that's the absolute worst time to lower your hand is when you're leaving an exchange. He's fairly one-dimensional. He wants to fight on his feet. After he was gassed, he was taken down pretty much at will. And in a fight against Kajon Johnson, he was absolutely useless on his back. Johnson just dominated. So I'm going to go with Hine in this fight via decision. He's in his hometown. He's going to avoid the only weapon that Bang has in his arsenal in that right hand. He's the more all-around fighter, and I think he handles the one-dimensional game of Bang. I'm going to be fading him probably in GPPs due to his low output, and I don't think this goes to a finish. I haven't looked at Vegas odds yet, but yeah, I'm going to go with Hine via decision.
Okay. Sounds good. The Vegas odds makers are with you here. Hine is the minus 235 favorite, and Bang comes in at a plus 195 underdog. The over-under is at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at minus 190. So again, Vegas agrees with you here. On DraftKings, Hine can be had for 10.5K, and Bang comes in at 8,900. What are your thoughts there?
Man, Bang has that potential, to catch him and knock him out. So maybe he is a GPP play. If you're looking for a punt option, I think Hine's a good cash game play. 10-5. It depends how you construct your lineup. We'll talk about that probably once we hit the main event. I I think Hines a cash game play. I probably won't be touching him in GPPs due to his limited finish ability. His last 4 fights have all ended in decision. So I think Hines a quality cash game play.
Okay. You think that even at 10.5, he's a solid cash play? I think we've seen some cheaper cash plays, some cheaper cash play options. So pretty big favorite. You think he's worth it?
Yeah, he's definitely a cash game playable in my book. He might be a little more expensive, but I just don't know how many fights are going to be finished on this card.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Not too many have been favored. The Askham Hermanson one, I think, was that 1.5 rounds?
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously there's the heavyweight one, so definitely kind of need exposure in GPPs there. But other than that, we haven't seen a lot of finishing potential. Not a ton anyway. All right, so should we move on?
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll move on to our next fight of the evening. Ryan Darth Bader versus Ilir Latifi, the Sledgehammer.
Sledgehammer, yes. So I'm going to take Bader in this fight. And I kind of knew going in that he'd end up being the favorite. He's the more high-profile dude's fought, the better competition. Just is coming off a really bad loss to Anthony Johnson back in January, I think, where he failed on a takedown attempt, gradually got mounted and got his back taken and got pounded out and basically did nothing. That was pretty rough, while Latifi is coming off a decision victory over shoot, I always blank on these names when we're recording. John Vellante. Coming off a decision over John Vellante at UFC 196. So I like Bader here. His striking has looked improved. Obviously, he's got the wrestling credentials. Latifi's also a wrestler, but there's kind of a difference between being an NCAA All-American, which I think Bader was, versus Latifi, who was on the Swedish national team. So kind of a difference in credentials there. Obviously, credentials don't always translate exactly to MMA, but I think Bader's going to have the wrestling advantage here, the athletic advantage, and the overall striking advantage. Latifi's got big power, and Bader has a poor tendency of getting caught. This is a dude who got dropped by Tito Ortiz, for God's sake. So Latifi could definitely catch him, but Bader did a really good job in his fight with Rashad Evans, utilizing improved footwork. He sometimes he circles a lot, uses a lot of lateral movement, but he's still not his footwork still isn't super clean. Kind of has to end up backpedaling as fast as possible to prevent himself from getting cornered. So he's not using the best footwork, not exiting on angles very well. But I'm sorry about that. He doesn't enter on an angle. He does when he's throwing a combination, throwing strikes. He does a decent job of exiting on an angle. But when he's trying to escape, he's just kind of backpedals. So his footwork's still not the cleanest. But I think his kicks, which he also showed improvement in his more recent fights. That was something that he didn't really do a whole lot before, his kick. But he was definitely kicking Evans well and using his jab well, as well as a nice shovel hook that was getting under Rashad's defenses. Latifi's not the most fleet of foot dude. He's built like a fire hydrant. Good wrestler, has good power, but I don't think it's going to be enough against Bader here. So I like Bader to take a decision.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Ryan Bader, did we go over Vegas odds?
No.
Vegas has Bader as the favorite at -240. Latifi is +190. Over-under is 1.5 rounds. Over is favored at -180, and the under is +150. DraftKings has Latifi at 9,100 and Bader at 10,300.
That over-under is a little bit surprising. I'm really expecting this fight to go the distance. Both dudes have power, I guess, but I think they're going to be kind of respecting it a lot. And Latifi's got a really good chin. Bader doesn't really have a great chin, but I don't think that he's going to be getting caught flush. So, yeah, I still like this one to go the distance. So, Bader could be a cash play. I think kind of the wrestling will kind of cancel out for the most part. And so we should end up with a striking match. I think Bader could end up giving you some decent strikes. Let me see, I want to check real quick what his strikes were against Evans. I think Latifi would probably have to be more of a GPP play. He's 9,100. He's got finish potential. Bader's been rocked definitely before. He's been dropped. In most of the fights that he loses, he gets dropped. Mentioned Ortiz already. He got dropped by Teixeira. He's also lost to Jones and Rumble, and Machida also dropped him. So that could definitely happen. But I like Bader as probably a cash play, maybe in GPPs as well. If he can kind of like wear down and land a haymaker on the TV. I mean, he's capable there, but TV's got a really, really good chin. So I think Bader's more of a cash play for me.
All right, I don't hate it. I agree with you. I think he uses his wrestling, and I think he's a solid cash game play. All right, co-main event of the evening. Alexander Gustafsson versus Jan Blachowicz. This one's going to be quick and easy, guys. Gustafsson storms in this fight. You know what you get out of him? He's a tall, lanky striker. He uses his reach from outside. He's very, very good at fighting tall. He's excellent at using that length. He keeps guys at the end of his punches, his kicks. It's the reason why the John Jones fight was such a war. He has this ability to keep his opponents at bay and get picked apart by his long, lengthy strikes. He's fought an elite level of fighters from top to bottom. On the ground, he's effective off his back thanks to his length. He generates really good power in his elbows, and he likes to inflict damage on his opponents from the top and when he's on the bottom. In the first round against Daniel Cormier, he actually took him down, and although it was for a few seconds, he did a really good job of neutralizing Cormier's wrestling ability in that first round, using wrist control, controlling the posture. So yeah, Gustafsson, I think, storms in this fight. Blachowicz, he's a low-volume kickboxer. He doesn't have a ton of power. He did KO Latifi, we were talking about, with a body kick. He got pressured up on the fence by Jimmy Manuwa, but he lost the decision despite slightly outlanding him. And in the wrestling department, he got out-wrestled by Corey Anderson, so I think that says it all. Really easy pick for me here, the Mauler Mauls. He's going to use his length, his fight experience, and he's going to storm Blachowicz. It's been a tough go of late for Alex, but he's faced the elite of the elite in this division, and Blachowicz isn't anywhere near that, so I'm going to say he finishes this fight in the first, early second round. Okay.
I saw this on Twitter already what the price was on Gustafsson, so a little bit of a spoiler there. But so he comes in as a minus 750 favorite, while the comeback on Blachowicz is plus 525. The over-under is at 2.5 rounds still, but the under is at minus 140. And on DraftKings, Gustafsson comes out as at an astronomical 12,500, while Jan Blachowicz is at 6,900. I don't think I've ever seen prices like that before. So I guess the question is, can you even roster Gustafsson? Is that even possible?
I don't know. I've been trying to put together a lineup here in the past minute or so because I jumped ahead and saw the DraftKings. I don't know because I think maybe you could in GPPs if you pay down for other fighters. Man, that's really tough. I think I'll have one or two I'm a multi-GPP lineup player, as is Josh. So I think maybe I'll have one or two with Gustafsson in there, but you're just scraping from the bottom of the barrel. You put in Gustafsson and your average salary is $9,375 per fighter. And even with some of the dogs that we like, you're still strapped for cash. And I think the better option here in GPP is to pay down for some of the other guys with finish potential. although Gustafsson is probably going to get you 105 points, 110, you're paying up for that, but I think you're overpaying, and I think there's value to be had elsewhere throughout the card.
Yeah, it's interesting. We mentioned earlier how this card doesn't seem to have a ton of finishes. So, I mean, like you said, there are a few guys who are lower priced that you might be able to like fit in around him. I like Wallhead at 93. We liked Sabata as more of probably a cash play, but he's only 84. And a fight's supposed to go the distance, the odds are much closer than the prices indicate. I liked Issa at 94. So there are some ways that you might be able to make a lineup, but again, like for GPPs, you're trying to want to get those finishes, and you might not be able to get all of those on there with rostering Gustafsson. So that's really interesting. What about Blachowicz? I mean, being so cheap.
Nope.
You don't think so? Not worth it?
I'm not even going to sniff him.
Yeah, I guess that's tough. I mean, when he's so cheap, I don't know. I'm thinking about if you might just chuck him into a GBP as a complete punt, and then you get to have like a whole bunch of other favorites.
That is the uber contrarian play. I think the only option of that is he stands and bangs for three rounds, and I mean he might pay off that salary if he goes to a distance and loses, but that's risky.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a complete and total punt right there. You're probably right. It's probably better to look elsewhere because there's not a lot of like really heavily priced dudes who are like worth paying up for. Like Dalby's 11,000. We already said it's not worth it. Probably, I mean, most likely. So, yeah, interesting. That makes it's going to make lineup construction really, really weird. But we do like Gustafsson. He's one of the few dudes who we like to get the finish. We like Gustafsson. I liked Macedo to get a finish. I liked Issa to get a finish. We like Danho, obviously. But that was it. Those only 4 people so far that we like to get the finish. And we do have one more heavyweight fight coming up. So maybe that'll be my GPP lineup, is trying to get all those finishes in there. So ready to move on to the main?
Speaking of the main event, let's dive right in. Andrei the Pitbull Arlovski versus Josh the War Master Barnett. And as always, Josh, this is on you, brother.
All right. So let me check my notes out real quick. But I know that it's just going to be kind of tough for me to pick Arlovski at this point against pretty much anybody. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Against any top fighter. And I think Barnett is still among the top 10 at heavyweight. That's not necessarily saying a whole lot. With heavyweight being the probably by far the thinnest division, at least on the men's side. But so Barnett's coming off a loss to Rothwell, where he was shockingly submitted by Rothwell's now famous go-go choke or front choke, while Arlovski is coming off back-to-back losses to Stipe Miocic and most recently Alistair Overeem, after having a nice kind of 4-fight resurgence after re-entering the UFC. But yeah, I mean, we kind of see what he does against how Arlovski does against the best and how he does against the not so great. Against the 2 dudes who are going to be fighting fighting for the title next week, he lost, and against dudes like Antonio Silva, who's shot, and Travis Brown, who definitely good, definitely very athletic, very long. Arlovski was able to drop or rock Brown several times in their like classic 1-round fight. Also decision Frank Mir, who's on the downside for sure. So Barnett, before losing to Rothwell, had really, really pieced up Roy Nelson, who's a similar I can never say this word, similarly limited fighter as Arlovski. Arlovski is super right-hand dependent. That's really his only weapon. He can kick and he can wrestle and he can grapple a little bit, but he doesn't really do that very much, at least offensively. He kind of is the anti-wrestler or kind of uses his wrestling in reverse to kind of stay on the feet. But his right hand is his best and only weapon. When he was throwing when he was trying to finish Brown in their fight, he was trying to tee off with just left, right, left, right, left, right. But with his left, he is mostly just pawing or trying to keep the person in place with his left, and then just to, like, set up his right hand again. So I don't know if this is true or not, but it kind of seemed to me that when Arlovski was trying to flurry there at the end, Brown could feel that the lefts were like not hurting at all, and so he timed his counter and ended up dropping Arlovski when Arlovski was throwing the left. Like Brown knew he didn't have to fear it, wasn't hurting him, so he winged back his own haymaker and dropped Arlovski when Arlovski was throwing the left. So, and Arlovski also was throwing out the back fist. He would miss with the right hand and then come back with a back fist, and he dropped Brown a few times in that fight. But that's not a recipe for success there. And he sort of got punched out in less than a minute by Miocic, and his fight with Overeem was tentative for a little bit, but he ended up getting knocked out in about a minute into the second round. So we know Arlovski's chin is not very good. Since moving to Jackson Wink, he's gotten better at kind of limiting his weakness, which is like he just can't get hit flush very often. So what that kind of turns into is he's kind of tentative to really engage in brawls, but I don't really think that's not really Barnett's game either. He did a really good job of even against Rothwell. I think he was doing a good job of outfighting. He can jab and he can kick. Rothwell was just super huge and super tough, and so he was just walking through everything until he eventually could corner Barnett. So I like Barnett here. Did I pick him to finish? Yes. I think that he eventually kind of just picks apart Arlovski and then is able to take him down and get a submission in the mid to later rounds, say third or fourth. Like I said, Barnett pretty much has one weapon to try to avoid, and he was able to do that against Roy Nelson in pretty spectacular fashion. Just beat the snot out of Nelson for 5 rounds. Let's see how many significant strikes he landed. 146. He put 146 strikes on Roy Nelson, who is way tougher than Arlovski. Nelson's chin is legendary, and Arlovski's chin is legendarily weak. So I like the War Master here. Pretty big.
All right. Vegas has Barnett as the -150 favorite, Arlovski at +120. Over-under is at 1.5 rounds. The over is favored at -145, and the under is at +115. Interesting line for a 5-round fight.
Yeah, it's heavyweights for sure. So on DraftKings, they both come in at 9,700. Interesting. I like Barnett here. I think I like him in both formats. I think I'd be willing to roll with him in cash. What are the odds you say again? He's not a huge favorite for sure, but yeah, so heavyweight cash play, that's always a risk. I'll probably have to look at roster construction, see kind of what I'm getting there, but he is a value given the odds, and I like him pretty big here. I don't think Arlovski's the type of dude that would beat Barnett. But again, heavyweight MMA, blah, 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 the old cliche. So Arlovski's GVP play worthy, I guess, but I probably won't have a lot of exposure to him. I'll probably have more exposure to Colombo than I would to Arlovski.
All right, folks, that wraps up our analysis of UFC Fight Night, Arlovski versus Barnett. Before we wrap up, as always, Josh and I have a little game that we play. Make a few selections. Lock of the night, if you get it wrong, you get -1. If you get the fight of the night correct, you get +1. And if you get the Stonewall Stunner of the evening, you get +3. So currently the score is yours truly 10 and Josh 7. That's basically nothing in this game. So let's start out with fight of the night.
I like I think I'm gonna say Askham and Hermanson, I think, is fight of the night.
You stole that from me, but I love it.
All right.
No, I'll take it. It's yours.
All right. All right, you did ask.
I'm going to go with Ari versus Wallhead.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. Um, I mentioned earlier who that's actually going to be my bathroom break fight. Let me double check. Let me look back over these fights real quick.
I didn't research that fight, but I'm just going out on a limb because I don't really like the other ones.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
Actually, I'm going to go with Nick Hein versus Tong Hyun Bang as the fight of the night.
All right. Cool. Yeah, so my bathroom break fight is Wallhead and Ayari. You got one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Evan Smith and Macedo.
I don't know, man. Macedo's she's all about that spinning stuff, you know. So I think that kind of could kind of keep it interesting. But yeah, if Evan Smith is able to get on top, then it could be definitely a bathroom break type of fight.
Lock of the night. You want to make a rule you can't pick Gustafson?
I don't know. I think we should just trade off who goes first, who gets first crack at it. I think I did last time, so you go ahead. If you want Gustafson, I mean, he's a huge favorite. Obviously, it makes sense to pick him as a lock. Or do you not want to go there? What do you think?
I'm taking Gustafson.
All right. Cool. Who do I like? I might take Hobylov. Dude is just, I think he's really good. Yeah, I mean, there's some risk. I mean, I like Barnett and I like Bader, but they fight at weight classes where it's really hard to have a true lock, especially heavyweight. I like Barnett a lot there, but I mean, it just takes one from Arlovski or any heavyweight. So I'm gonna go with Hobylov. Rustem Hobylov, the Dagestani wrestler. I like him as my lock.
All right, the Stonewall Stunner of the evening. You get first crack at it. Don't steal it from me.
Okay. Can I have? I mean, I sort of already picked this. So like I said, I picked Macedo. She was a plus 210 underdog. There's no prop on Macedo by submission, but her finish prop is plus 290.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll take her by submission. Whatever. Stunner.
All right. I say Latifi finishes Bader on the feet.
All right. That's hold up. Well, before I blindly agree.
I'll give you a finish. It doesn't have to be a submission for Macedo.
All right. Cool. See Latifi inside distance.
Yep.
You jerk. He's only plus 159.
I have him at plus 190.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was Bader. Okay, actually, yeah. All right, fair enough. Latifi inside distance I'm looking at is plus 320.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, that's fair. That was Bader's was plus 159. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Is there anything else?
I forgot to shout out Lapes off the top. I mentioned him on the last show. That was the first show that we had the new introduction. So I just want to shout him out again. This is a buddy of ours who also does some production type stuff. And so you can find him on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Doles with 2 S's, DOLESS. He's got some cool stuff on there. He's going to be kind of helping us out with some other like music, sound stuff going forward. We're going to try to get that added on, try to make this podcast sound pretty legit. So shouts to him for making that so that I don't have to introduce us anymore, because that always feels kind of bush league to introduce yourself on the podcast. I don't know if that's bush league or not. Some people do that, but whatever. Thanks to Lapes for that. As always, So we're recording this earlier than normal. This is Wednesday night. This will be out. The podcast will be out on Thursday. So I'm going to try to have my blog out for this at rotogrinders.com by tomorrow evening, hopefully Thursday evening. So you can find that. Go to rotogrinders.com and do opponent search for JDS86. You can also follow me on Twitter at Stonewall MMA and Drew at Houdini16 WHODEANY16.
Yep. Also, thank you, Lapes, for the new drop. I'm loving it already. Can't wait to see what you come out with next. Also, I want to shout out to Jimmy in Cleveland. He's a big fan of the show. He reached out to us and said how much he loves the show. So shout out to Jimmy. You're the man. Thanks for listening. Also, for UFC 202, we had about 500 listeners to the podcast, which is unbelievable. So thank you guys for listening to us. Hope we made you a lot of money. As always, this card, hopefully we helped you, get a better understanding of things. It starts at 11:30 on Saturday morning. So if you guys are hungover, you don't want to do anything, log into UFC Fight Pass, watch some fights, rebound, get after it again.
Perfect. I love those day cards. It's so amazing.
Yeah, they're the best thing ever.
Especially Fight Pass. You don't have to listen to or sit through all those commercials. Oh man, it's gonna be great. Oh no, wait, shoot. Oh, we're both gonna get weddings. I forgot. Oh man, I'm gonna have to sneak off somewhere.
Yeah, you got time. You'll be early.
Yeah.
But as always, for Josh, I'm Drew. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back at you guys next week for UFC 203.
Yeah, next week.
We're gonna have to do that Wednesday. I will be flying to New York City on Thursday, so I will be out of the game. But yeah, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Good luck this weekend with your lineups, and hopefully we make you guys a bunch of money. Peace.
Peace.